Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wasallam wa baraka Nabi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. طيب يا اخوان, we will not be going to 9. I'm gonna cut it a little short because I actually want you to take me someplace, inshallah ta'ala. So I'll actually need to cut it a little short, but I won't be a stinter. Okay, I'm going to give you your fair share, inshallah ta'ala. No. All right, so we're going to return to Surah al-Mutaffifeen. We're going to return to it. And we're going to go to ayah number 10. Ayah number 10 in Surah al-Mutaffifeen. All right. So now, in ayah number 10, it starts again with that word, wail. Wailu yawma idhin lil mukaththibin. Woe on that day to the deniers, the beliers. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to make tafseer. Who are these beliers? Who are these deniers? الَّذِينَ يُكَذِّبُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Those who belie the day of recompense, the day of judgment. وَمَا يُكَذِّبُ بِهِ إِلَّا كُلُّ مُعْتَدٍ أَثِيمٍ. And none denies it except each and every sinful transgressor. إِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِ آيَاتُنَا قَالَ أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. When our verses are recited unto him, he says, tales of the ancients. Okay? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions that the people with these particular qualities, they're entitled to the same wail. So therefore we know, building on what we said previously, that whatever these people are doing is haram. And it's hated by Allah because He threatened them with what? Wail. So this is now a qaida muttarida. We can apply it throughout the Quran. When we see wail, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is threatening them with punishment in the hellfire. So whatever they're doing is very serious. And that He hates it, and we're supposed to what? Hate it, because we're supposed to love what Allah loves and hate what He hates. And so He mentions the people who are entitled to this wail and gives them these qualities. Then we come to the 14th verse, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. So He says, nay, rather upon their hearts is the stain of that which they used to earn. So everything that preceded is just what? The effect, the outcome, the consequence. But the cause is what? This ran, this stain on their hearts because of what? What they earned. So now this is very significant, or it should be significant to the reader and the one who ponders, because it tells you a few things. One, it tells you that one of the things that will cause you to earn and wail, earn this threat, is what? Having a heart which is what? Covered. A heart which is stained and has become so stained that it can't what? Absorb truth. That truth becomes, or the heart becomes hard, so truth comes to it and does what? It bounces off. Truth comes to it like water, and the heart is like a cup turned upside down. So it does what? It pushes it right and left, but doesn't what? Doesn't accept it in. So the effect of this, there's a lot of symptoms of it, which he mentions in the previous verses, But the ultimate consequence, the ultimate cause of it is what? This wrong. So what that does, it makes you realize the central importance, the paramount importance of what? Of the heart. That the heart can make you a believer if it's pure. It can make you a person who accepts the truth and avoids sin. But if the heart is stained and impure, it makes you what? Reject the truth and commit sins. You guys see that? So what this verse does, or this series of verses does, it points to the lesson that the believer can take from it if they read it and they read it critically and analytically and ponder it, is that the heart is of what? Central importance. And that basically the result or the sum total of my deeds is going to depend on what? The contents of my heart. And this is supported actually by the Sunnah. We have the famous hadith, the hadith collected by Muslim on the authority of, whose hadith is this? In al-halal bayyin wa al-haram bayyin. Who's the hadith? Who can tell me the rawi of the hadith? In al-halal bayyin wa al-haram bayyin. Anybody remember that? I like to remember the rawis. It's not important. I'm sorry. But al-muhim, hadith of Muslim in which the Prophet said at the end of the hadith, he said, "Ala fil jasadi mudghah. إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب." So in this hadith, the Prophet said, certainly there is in the body a lump of flesh, that if it is pure, sound, and upright, the body, the limbs, the actions of the limbs will be pure, sound, and upright. And if it is corrupt, the limbs and the actions of the limbs will be corrupt. It is certainly the heart. ايه صح عرضه ودينه. ومن راوي الحديث؟ راوي الحديث كنا نبحث عن راوي الحديث. مسلم رواه مسلم، لكن أنا الراوي من لا يسمى أبو هريرة. لا ابن عباس. لا. It's not. As soon as I hear the name I'll remember, but I can't remember. جزاك الله خير يا شيخنا، جزاك الله خير. النعمان بن بشير. Who said it? Oh man, I wish I had something to give you for that, man. I gotta bring candy next time. Start throwing little pieces of candy at people, right? Subhanallah, jazakallah khair. Hadith al-Nu'man ibn Bashir, jazakallah khair, that's correct. Alright, so al-Muhim, if you notice the Prophet ﷺ, he basically said that you have this lump of flesh, and as it goes, the limbs will go. If it's pure, the limbs will be what? Pure. If it's corrupt, the limbs will be what? Corrupt. And what? Also, so you have these two extremes, and you have what? Many levels in between. So you have what? A heart which is what? 80% pure, 20% corrupt, and the limbs will be what? Kadhalik. Likewise. 80% doing the right thing, 20% doing what? The wrong thing. And that's why Abu Hurairah, he said, Al-qalbu huwa al-malik, wal-a'ba junuduh. فإذا طاب الملك طابت جنوده وإذا خبث الملك خبثت جنوده. He said that the heart is the king and the limbs are its obedient soldiers. So if the king is upright, the limbs will be what? Upright. And if the king is corrupt, the limbs will be corrupt. That's just the way it works. And so there's a talazum, there is this inseparable connection between the heart and our deeds. And so it's erroneous for people when they do wrong and you say, hey brother, you're doing wrong. They say, you don't know what's in my heart. It's wrong to say that, ya ikhwan, because what's in our heart spills out what? In our actions. That's the reality of it. And the person cannot think that the two are divorced. I can actually be a perfect believer on the inside and an imperfect believer on the outside. La. You're as imperfect on the inside as you are what? On the outside. That's just how it works, ya ikhwan. That's just how it works. So we have to realize that there's this effect that the heart affects what? The limbs. And so what this verse is doing is what? Driving that point home. And so what that does for the believer, or should do for the believer, is it makes them sensitive to what? The heart and its role in what? Rectifying the behavior. So he realizes that, okay, and again, because he reads it, what? Seeing himself in it. So these people, they lied and they sinned and they did this, and the reason was because of what? Because of this ran, this covering. And the covering what? Was a result of what? The sins that they did, the deeds that they did, what? It also had an effect on the heart. It made it what? Black. And the Prophet talked about this in Hadith of Muslim. Every time you do a sin, a black dot appears on the heart. And if you repent or you do a good deed, what? It gets removed. But if you don't do it, it remains. Then if you do another sin, another black dot. Another sin, another black dot. Until what? Until the heart becomes what? Black. And that's what? Aran. That's what? That covering of what? Rust that we spoke about. So like I said, as a person's reading this, then he has to ask, okay, this is the paramount importance of the heart. This is the effect it can have on the limbs. What can cause this to happen? So I can prevent it from what? Happening to me. And ya ikhwan, this is important. And the reason why I focus on this is because we talked about earlier about how the deen becomes what? A routine. It becomes a habit. It becomes a custom. But there's no what? Effect. This has to be active. This has to be in the equation. And if it's not in the equation, then we're just what? Zombies and robots. And the real effect of Islam on ourselves and on others can't be attained. And this is why the tarbiyah that Allah gave to the Prophet's companions was a tarbiyah that would have what? An athar on this heart. And you can look at it, you can see it. I'll give you a few examples. You're going to see this too. We'll talk a little bit more about the disease of the heart and some of the treatments for the heart. So look at halihim. Look at their condition. One thing that was a prominent part of their condition was what? Poverty. If you take the overwhelming majority of the companions, they were what? Poor. Because dunya tufsid. Is that not so? Dunya tufsid. That when you have more and more of this world, most people can't keep it together and they end up what? It corrupts them. So Allah kept them away from them to the point that when the dunya poured in to the Muslim lands, and it happened during the Khilafah of Umar, Baka, he cried. He actually cried, and they asked him, why are you crying? And he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't withhold this wealth from his messenger and Abu Bakr لِشَرٍ أَرَادَهُ بِهِمَا وَلَمْ يُؤْتِهِ لَنَا لِخَيْرٍ يُرِيدُهُ بِنَا. He said that Allah didn't withhold this dunya from Abu Bakr, from the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr because of some harm that he wanted to do to them. And he didn't give it to us because of some what? Some good that he wanted to do to us. That something bad is going to happen because of what? This dunya. This dunya it's harmful. And that's why he kept it away from what? Abu Bakr, he kept it away from the Prophet ﷺ, the early companions, and Abu Bakr, and then it came what? In the era of Umar. So he cried. Al-Muhim, so that's one thing. He kept what? The dunya away from. For the most part, they were what? Poor. And the ones who had money were the people who what? They had the ability to what? To handle it. Like Abu Bakr, like Uthman, etc. But most of the companions were what? Impoverished. They were poor. Another thing is because they were poor, they were often hungry. Another quality of the companions was they were what? Often hungry. They went without food for long periods of time, to the point that Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to say how days would go past and no fire would be burned in the house of the Prophet. There's no fire burning, there's no what? Cooking going on. So they asked her, well, how did you survive? She said, we survived on the two blacks, meaning what? Dates and water. Okay? So they didn't have much to eat. And there were instances where, for example, the famous hadith where the Prophet ﷺ came off his house and he met Abu Bakr and Umar. And he said, well, why are you guys out, this late at night? And they said, we've been driven out of our homes by the pangs of hunger. And the Prophet said, I too have been driven out by the pangs of hunger. Hungry. One time when they were digging the ditch, they were digging the trench, and the Prophet ﷺ participated. And he goes to what? He goes, and a lot of the people were complaining because they were so hungry they had to tie stones around their waists, right? From all the cramping and all the pain that was coming from what? Not eating. And the Prophet goes to what? He goes to hammer, and his tunic lifts up, and he had 2 stones. These people were hungry, and that was a type of tarbiyah for them. Another tarbiyah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them is He made qiyam al-layl. He made it what? Obligatory. For 1 year, qiyam al-layl was obligatory upon the Muslims. Not just the Prophet, it was upon what? All the Muslims for 1 complete year. Another type of what? Tarbiyah, telling them the importance of what? And what effect did that poverty, that hunger, that qiyam al-layl, what effect did it have on what? On their hearts. It purified it, ya ikhwan. And as we're going to see, the opposite has what? The opposite effect. When people have lots of dunya, they have lots of food, they're eating too much, and they don't offer the night prayer, it does what? It makes the heart what? Hard, coarse, and resistant to what? Resistant to truth. So the point I'm trying to make is that you read this, you see the central importance of the heart, and then you start to ask yourself as you read, okay, this is the effect that this can have. Are there other things that can have that effect? Because I don't want these consequences, so I need to what? Know how I can protect what? This qalb. Now let me ask you this question. When you go to the doctor, and the doctor's going to examine you and ultimately diagnose you, what does he do? Because he now wants to treat you. He usually treats you what? In 2 ways. First of all, he'll say, your sickness is caused by X, Y, and Z. So don't do X, don't do Y, don't do Z. Leave these things, okay? So he'll say, for example, utruk hadha li'annahu ya'mal lak kada. Utruk hadha li'annahu ya'mal lak kada. He says, leave this because it will what? It will cause this, or it's doing this, or it's causing that. Give you an example. A person goes to the doctor and he has some like pain in his joints. Especially he has pain in his ankle joint and the joints in his big toe. They call that gout, right? Goes to the doctor and he says, I'm having this pain. And the doctor says that's caused by what? It's caused by too much protein in your diet, too many fried foods in your diet, too much salt in your diet, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a no protein diet. You can't eat meat because it's going to what? Cause this pain. Can't eat lots of cholesterol. He tells them you can't. Take this out of your diet because it's what? It's causing the gout. So now I know what's causing it, the thing that's causing it, we're going to what? Remove it. But we still have to treat. I have to give you something to what? To remove the pain and to get rid of the inflammation, etc. So then he does what? He gives them what? A medicine. He prescribes what? A medicine. Okay, so you have to take this dawa, you have to take this medicine 3 times a day for 14 days, for a month, whatever it is. So you see that there's a 2-fold treatment. So when the believer reads this and sees the central importance of the heart, then he starts to turn to what? He starts to turn to what? The Quran and the Hadith to find out, okay, this heart, central importance, if it's sick, this is the effect it can have. How do I what? Treat it with those 2 types of treatment. What things do I need to leave in order to what? Make it pure and sound. And what things do I need to what? To do to what? To purify it, to heal it, etc. And so we're talking about 2 things. Amrad al-qulub, the diseases or the poisons or the sicknesses of the heart. And we're talking about what? We're talking about ilaj al-qulub, the things which will what? Treat the heart. So now we talk about amrad. Give me some amrad. Give me some things that what? Will make the heart sick. What do you think? Thanklessness, ingratitude. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Anything else? Something a little bit more obvious than that, than ingratitude. What do you think? We kind of alluded to some of them. Okay, bad character, sins. Right? Ra'itu dhunuba tumitul quluba. Right? I've seen sins killing hearts. Ra'itu dhunuba tumitul quluba. And what's the rest of it? Ra'itu dhunuba tumitul quluba. Wow, it's a line of poetry. I can't remember it. But al-Muhim, the sins do what? They kill the heart. They kill the heart. So sins are one thing. Okay? Pride is another disease. And we talked about that earlier. How pride does what? Makes a person consider himself above the law and above others. Okay? Jealousy. Good. Hate, it could, depending on who's being hated. It could. What about something else we just mentioned? What about eating too much? Eating too much. In the early Muslims, they used to say that overeating, yu'mi al-qalb. They used to say, ash-shaba' yu'mi al-qalb. That overeating, it blinds the heart, makes it blind. Okay? And to be honest with you, Ikhwan, this is a problem we have, what? In the Muslim world. People who have the good fortune of having plenty of food tend to do what? Tend to overeat, right? And it's affecting us whether we realize it or not. So that's another one, overeating. What about kathrat al-kalam? Talking too much, right? Talking too much. Look at your Prophet. He used to spend long periods of time in silence. Wouldn't say anything. And if he did speak, he would be making what? Dhikr. And he was very careful only to speak and say things which are what? A benefit. But you find us, we like to talk. We like to talk about things which have no benefit. Even worse, we talk about things which are what? They harm us. Backbiting, slander, atadakhul fi umur al-akharin. We basically interfere in other people's what? Matters and their private personal affairs. We do those things, and what? All that talking does what? As the Prophet in the one hadith collected by Tirmidhi, he said that one of the signs of a nifaq is kathrat al-kalam. And we know nifaq is what? A disease in the heart. One of the causes of that is what? Talking too much. But another thing that too much of it can harm the heart, as Ibn Abbas mentioned, is what? Kathrat al-dhahik. Laughing too much. And what did the Prophet say? He said, if you knew what I knew, you would laugh little and cry much. Okay? Doesn't mean the Prophet didn't laugh, but he wasn't what? He didn't laugh too much. Okay? And seriousness what? Dominated. Okay? Or had, was the more common trait that he demonstrated. Doesn't mean he didn't laugh. We can laugh. Okay? But too much laughing does what? It harms the heart, as Ibn Abbas said. What other? Sleeping too much. Also, ashubuhat, doubts and misconceptions. We shouldn't put ourselves in a situation, Ya Ikhwan, where we're exposing ourselves to something which will make us doubt the deen. We shouldn't do that. So we avoid those things. Another thing is namim and ghiba. These are all sins that definitely hurt. Another one, Ya Ikhwan, pay attention to this one. Rufaqa as-su. Bad companions. Keeping bad company. That when you associate with people who they are sinful, they are people who are people of doubts and misconceptions, they are people who do wrong things, their behavior can what? Influence your behavior. They can actually rub off on you. As the Prophet in the hadith, al-mar'a dini khalili falyandur ahadukum man yukhalil. He said, a person will follow the faith of his closest companion, so be careful with whom you associate. Another disease of the heart, Ya Ikhwan, another marad, is looking at things we shouldn't look at. Unrestrained glances. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talked about lowering the gaze, He said, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم. He said, say to the believers that they should what? Lower their gaze and guard their chastity. That is pure for them. قال ابن كثير أي أطهر لقلوبهم. He said it's pure for what? For their hearts. Because the way that shaitan, ya ikhwan, he gets into the heart, the way that his method of entering the heart is through these unrestrained glances. It's like that's his opening, that's his opportunity. And so once he gets in there, he can play with that and use that against you. And I'm going to ask you honestly, ya ikhwani, how many times have you looked at something that you shouldn't have looked at? And then that image appears at the most inopportune times. As soon as Allahu Akbar, there it is. As soon as you open the Quran, there it is. It happens, ya ikhwan. We've lived the experience. We've lived the experience. So this is the effect of what unrestrained glances, which is why Allah said, lower your gaze, ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ أَطْهَرْ لِقُلُوبِهِمْ. So these are some of the amrad, ya ikhwan. وَبِالْمُقَابِلِ, on the other side, we have to get rid of these. Obviously, we have to try to, limit these as much as possible. But on the other side, we have what? We have the ilaj, the things that we should do to do what? To make the heart soft and supple and get ourselves out of that realm of just routine and being zombies, just going through the motions, where we actually feel, we're not desensitized, we actually feel. So if you think about these amrad, realize that in many cases the opposite is what? Is the cure. So too much eating is a sickness. What do you think of the cure? Fasting. Fasting. Ya ikhwan, we have so many voluntary fasts which will bring us what? Reward from Allah. تفضل يا شيخ.
You missed the worst disease.
The iPhone. MashaAllah. Allah yubarak feek, ya Shaykh. Allah yubarak feek. How can we forget that one? طيب, so one of them obviously is fasting. And we have all these voluntary fasts that we can do and incorporate into what? Into our regimen of rituals. So you have Mondays and Thursdays. Okay, Mondays and Thursdays, that puts me at 2 days a week. 2 days a week times 4 weeks in a month. That's 8 days. Oh, that's too much. Okay, then do ayam al-Bid. 3 days out of the month. And that's what? The 13th, 14th, and 15th of the lunar month. When the moon is at its full. Fast 3 days a month. It'll be as if you fasted what? It'll be as if you fasted the whole year, because al-hasanatu bi ashri amthaliha. So you fast 3 days, it's as if you fasted 10 days, 30 days in each month. It's like you fasted the whole year, right? And it'll have an effect, ya ikhwan. That fasting will have an effect. Another disease we said was what? Was talking too much. Talking too much, we said was a disease. So the treatment for that is, instead of busying yourself with what? Talking, busy yourself with a dhikr. Different types of what? Dhikr, which the Prophet used to do. When he was idle with his companions, he used to make what? A tasbih, with tahmeed, with tahleel. He used to make dhikr, to the point that this companion said he would be sitting with us and we could count what? We could count his tasbih. We could count it, right? We see him, subhanAllah, subhanAllah, just sitting with us. And how many times, ya ikhwan, have you gone into a store to pick up a few things? And then you get to check out and there's this long line, right? There's this long line. You're like, man. So you stand there and you just look around. And you stand there for like 10, 15 minutes. And that's 10, 15 minutes where you could have been what? Getting reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Getting reward by making what? Dhikr. We have to condition ourselves, ya ikhwan, to be the people of what? Dhikr. And the wasa'il, the means, have been made so easy for us, to the point that they have these little pocket-size books of dhikr. The most popular one being Hisn Muslim. Something why did they make it pocket-size? So you can carry it everywhere you go. And make dhikr on your phone now, right? So you can spend some time when you have free time and just what? Open the phone, open the book, and just read what? One dhikr, one supplication, one invocation, and what? Memorize it. And now that's another thing in your what? In your arsenal. Another thing in your arsenal. So you're adding to your arsenal to the point that your whole day will be ma'mur. Your whole day will be what? it'll be built upon what? Dhikr. So I know what to say when I wake up. I know what to say when I put on my clothing. I know what to say when I step out of the house, step into the car, into the masjid, out of the masjid, right? When I meet someone at work who I'm afraid of, what do I say in that circumstance, right? When I have anxiety, what do I say in that circumstance, etc., to the point that from the beginning to the end of the day, your day is filled with what? Dhikr. طيب, ثم بعد ذلك, we mentioned another disease, which is doubts and misconceptions, things that make you uncertain. And the treatment for that is talab al-ilm, seeking knowledge, sitting in durus. That's another thing. The wasa'il for this, the means for this are what? Unlimited now, ya ikhwan. They're just unlimited. They're just wasa'il that the people of old, were unheard of in their time. And in spite of that, look at all the knowledge they obtained. They didn't have these means. They didn't have Sahih Bukhari at their what? At their fingertips, like we do. They don't have lessons in whatever discipline you want to take on what? Online, free from universities, actual universities, or YouTube videos, or they didn't have these wasa'il, but they were able to what? To learn their deen. And here we are with all of these means at our disposal. And we don't have time to what? We don't have time to learn, we don't have this to learn, we don't have that. We have all these excuses not to what? To learn our deen and to push away what? These shubuhat. طيب, ثم بعد ذلك, we mentioned another disease, which was rufaqa as-su, the bad companions. So a person needs to have what? Good companions. He needs to associate with what? With the good people, with the religious people, with the righteous people, and have friends who will always what? Remind him. And an extension of this, ya ikhwani, and this is for the people who are not yet married. This is for the people not yet married, is that your closest companion is your spouse. So you need to choose wisely. You need a spouse who's going to what? Remind you of Allah and encourage you to obey Allah. Not a spouse who's going to be an anchor. This goes for both men and women. You don't want a spouse who's going to be what? An anchor. Pulling you up. Pulling you down. And making you stagnant, or even worse, making you regress and go backward. You don't need that in your life. You need somebody who's going to what? Be the wind in your sails and always can encourage you to what? To do good. Oh, there's good in this. You should do that. We should do that. I'll give you an example. Couple saving money for a vacation. And, they deserve it. They've never taken a vacation, and they want to take a vacation. And then all of a sudden, there's this good project. There's this good, there's a masjid that wants to expand, and they're seeking donations. And they turn to each other and they say, what we should do with that money? Instead of taking on a vacation, we should invest what? In our akhirah. That's the kind of wife you want. That's the kind of husband you want. It's going to say, let's do this good deed. That's what you need. You need that in your life. Just like you need, as the Prophet said in the hadith, al-Mur'a dini khalili, he said the person will follow the faith of his friend, his closest companion. Who's closer than what? The one who shares your bed. So it's critical that we choose wisely in that area, which is why the Prophet said in the hadith, he said, tunkah al-mar'atu li arba'. He said a woman's going to be married for what? For one of four things. Primarily, people marry for one of four things. Li nasabiha, for her what? Her lineage. Wa li hasabiha, for her for her status in society. Wa li maliha, for her wealth. She's a wealthy woman. Wa li diniha, right? And for her religion. فَانْكَحْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ, marry the one who's what? Religious. تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ, or you'll be a loser. وَالصَّحْ, the Prophet said many things which were truth. Everything he said was truth, but wallahi, this one is really true. And people have lived the experience on both sides. It's not just men, it's women too, living the experience. So you have to choose. If you're not married, choose wisely, because it's going to help you and going to help what? Your heart, and help you in your deen in the long run. So this is what I wanted to share, ya ikhwan, regarding what? This particular verse. It's a verse which is very close to my heart because of that. And this is an aspect of the deen that doesn't get enough play, doesn't get talked about enough. This heart, ya ikhwan. We need to start building ourselves from the inside out, not from the outside in. Everybody can put on the clothes. Everybody can grow the beard. Everybody can shorten the thobe. Everybody can do the cosmetics. But I'm asking you, if you put on a bunch of makeup and you go out in the heavy rain, what happens? It washes off. It washes off, and that's what we're doing. We're doing cosmetics. Don't do cosmetics. Okay? Beautify yourself from the inside out, and when that heavy rain comes, you're going to stay what? Beautiful. It's going to increase what? Your radiance and beauty. But if it's cosmetics, it's going to what? As soon as there's a calamity, it's going to go away. That's my message. That's our practical learning. And tomorrow, we're going to do a little bit more of this, but the onus is going to be more on you, inshallah ta'ala. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak nabi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.